She hadn't taken a bath for 10 years and went to the bathhouse for the first time. However, she couldn't use the electronic water, which kept making a buzzing sound. The impatient owner came over, ready to scold her, but upon seeing the man covered in tattoos, he held his tongue in fear. Because in South Korea, the larger the tattoo coverage on the body, the higher one's status in the underworld. This young man just heard the name of his crush and became the boss of the school. When he saw the man who had just taken a shower with his crush, he first kicked the man flying with one kick, then took him to an abandoned building and gave him a beating until the man's clothes were torn. When the boy wore shorts and revealed that green dragon tattoo, the students realized how foolish they had been. But the man just covered the tattoo with his clothes and pulled his sister to touch his chest. Quietly left. This timid man is called Taiji, but 10 years ago he was not timid at all. He once took on 6 troublemakers alone, resulting in 1 death and 5 injuries on the other side. As a result, he went to prison for manslaughter. The deceased person's mother came to visit and discovered that Taishik was not bad by nature. He just made a mistake. So she gave Taishik a notebook, hoping he would stop drinking, stop fighting, and stop crying. And as long as he reformed, she was willing to forgive him. Taishik cherished this little book greatly, recording all the things he wanted to do after being released, and it became his only spiritual solace inside. 10 years quickly passed, and Taishik was released after serving his sentence, his temperament long softened by the years of imprisonment. Similarly, the world has changed dramatically for him. He found his former underlings, just wanting to simply see how they were doing, and told them he was out. But those who had become underlings of a local boss were respectful on the surface, and once Taiji left, they cursed him behind his back and instructed their men to keep an eye on him, to prevent him from rising again and taking over their territory. Taiji went to a small restaurant that the deceased's mother had founded. When she saw Taiji out, she was genuinely happy and kept asking about his well-being, but Taiji kept saying sorry. Anchoi knew she felt guilty. To ease her discomfort, Anchoi wanted to make her a godson, closed the shop early, specially made barbecue for her, and fed her personally. The younger sister saw this scene and felt a bit uneasy. Since her brother's death, she had never seen her mother this happy. The next day, Taiji went to the hospital, wanting to remove his tattoos. In the past, he relied on them to get by. Now, he wants to start anew. However, the doctor told him that removing such a large tattoo would cost a lot of money. Penniless, Taiji found a job at an auto repair shop, but because with a criminal record, the police were worried he would cause chaos again after being released. So they asked the boss about his recent situation. The boss said that he worked diligently and was a good kid, and also stayed away from alcohol. The significant change was almost unbelievable. That night, he used the first money he earned. At the palace front, he bought Ankui a pair of beautiful leather shoes and bought his sister the camera she had longed for. Prince's change made Ankui very pleased and made his sister fully accept this brother. But the happy life had just begun. Someone was determined to ruin this happiness. The local gangsters colluded with the councilmen to develop the town, but Ankui's restaurant refused to move. The councilmen said that whoever can get rid of this trouble will be given the newly opened nightclub. Aoi agreed in one breath and brought his underlings to the restaurant the next day. They rushed in and started smashing things. The prince, who was eating, got up to stop them. At this moment, Aoi walked in, ready to show off his skills. But the instant he saw the prince, he was so scared that he immediately made his gang stop. It turns out he used to run with the prince and knew how terrifying he could be. However, this time the prince just told him to leave and not come back. When Aoi walked out, he had completely lost his arrogant demeanor, feeling fortunate for not taking action. Taiji asked Ankui why they came. Ankui, fearing Taiji might impulsively do something wrong, did not tell him everything. The night before, the councilman's driver found Taiji. He was involved in a fight 10 years ago, during which Taiji crippled one of his legs. However, this time he wasn't there to cause trouble, but to warn Taiji that the restaurant was targeted by the councilman and advised him to move out quickly. Otherwise, the councilman would definitely find ways to deal with him. Sure enough, the next day, while Taiji wasn't there, Aoi took people to the restaurant again. Seeing that Ankui wouldn't budge, they directly attacked and smashed the place to pieces. The sister, returning from school, saw this scene and hit Aoi on the head with the camera. But being a weak girl, how could she resist a group of strong men? And the police nearby just watched without any intention to step in. At the same time, Taiji also encountered trouble because he was still on parole. If he got into a fight, he would be sent back to prison. So Yiwan found a group of thugs to help out, deliberately causing trouble, trying to provoke Taiji to make a move. But Taiji has vowed not to fight anymore. Even when surrounded and beaten by many, he just endures the pain. The boss stepped forward to break up the fight and got involved. Taiji, seeing this, only used his body to shield him. The thug saw that he really had no intention of fighting back and reluctantly left. A once powerful figure now being bullied. The school bully who secretly liked the sister saw the prince getting beaten and heard that Kui's shop was smashed. Gloating, he actually went there alone. The prince merely smelled a fragrance on him and came to arrest the sister. He even mocked Kuai for adopting the killer of her son as her own. These words were overheard by the sister outside the door, and she then realized that it was Taiji who had killed her real brother. That night, she questioned her mother about why she would adopt the killer as family. Kuai told him that when Taiji cried and begged for his forgiveness in prison, he knew that Taiji was kind-hearted. Since then, he visited him almost every month. 10 years is enough to see a person clearly, and Taiji did not disappoint him, so when he got out, he treated him like family. After hearing this, he couldn't help but tear up. Hearing her mother's words, the younger sister found Taiji on the rooftop. At this moment, Taiji was already preparing to leave this home, but the younger sister said she also chose to forgive because their own brother always beat their mother over money, while Taiji's arrival brought countless laughter to the family and never made the mother sad even once. He also wanted to thank Taiji. Chui photocopied the diary and brought it to the congressman, saying that if his family was troubled again, he would expose the diary. It turned out that the congressman had instructed his son to trouble Taiji back then, which ultimately led to his son's death. Taiji was embarrassed. Zhang Dan went to jail. In the diary, the son wrote clearly. Kui initially thought he could use it to threaten the senator, but unexpectedly, something happened that afternoon. On her way home from school, his sister was suddenly attacked with a brick by a motorcycle gang, obviously sent by the senator. Looking at his daughter lying in a coma in the hospital, Kui Bicheng's face was disfigured by the brick, and Aunt Kui realized that they could not fight against the congressman. She decided to sell the small restaurant and then leave with the 2 children. Tai Yishi agreed with Aunt Kui's idea and found the congressman that night, revealing everything and hoping he would let their family go. Unexpectedly, the congressman smiled slightly and said that they could leave, but he must leave a hand. In order not to protect his family, Taiji decided without hesitation. Fortunately, the person taking action was the driver, and he only cut Taiji's skin, not his tendons. On the way back, the driver told him to quickly leave with his family. This was all the help he could offer. But will the congressman really let them go? Don't forget, Kui still has leverage against him, and this perpetrator who harmed his family will eventually face consequences himself. Not being out for a day means his position is unstable for a day. He sent his men to strangle Aunt Kui and retrieve the original diary from her. Even pressed her fingerprint on the demolition contract so he could demolish the restaurant openly. When Taiji returned from his sister and saw Aunt Kui hanging in midair, he quickly took her down. But hanging her was merely the killer's joke. Kui had already stopped breathing. At the funeral, Taisik sat alone in the corner. He didn't understand why Kui would commit suicide, nor did he know how to tell his sister about it. On the way home, looking at the restaurant that was already half demolished, Taisik felt that this matter was definitely not that simple. As expected, while sorting through Aunt Kui's belongings, he discovered an item left by the killer in the corner of the room. He instantly understood everything because he had seen this earring before. It was often worn by one of the councilman's subordinates. Meanwhile, his sister woke up in the hospital and asked. He turned back to look for his mom, and Taiji could only lie to her, saying that Kui was busy at the restaurant. The family photo that the sister took before was sent to the photo studio for developing, and she hadn't picked it up due to her injury. She hoped her brother could help her retrieve it. Looking at the happy smiles of the three people in the photo, at that moment, his suppressed emotions erupted. When he was in prison, he didn't cry. Beaten by thugs, his skin cut by knives, he still didn't cry. Life hit rock bottom, only. Her body and mind shattered. She still didn't cry, but that night she shed many tears and drank a lot. Her endurance did not bring her family safety, and 2 of the vows she once made had already been broken, so continuing not to fight seemed meaningless. On the other side, the councilman and his men, with no more worries, were holding a celebration party at the nightclub. Just as they raised their glasses to drink, crying was heard from outside the door. Huh? Ladashi racing? Oh, who is Master Einen? You ask about those 10 years, cry. After regretting, ask yourself again. It's just that you don't want others to. At this moment, Taijik returns to his state from 10 years ago. He first let the driver go, then found out that the bully who hurt his sister was the school tyrant. At this point, he volunteered to stand up, but Taijik ended his life with one move. He lit the gasoline at the entrance, sealing all the exits, and began his fierce counterattack. Finally, in the sea of flames, Taiji sat with a heart ashen, recalling every moment with Aunt Kui and his sister, while using this fire to bury her unbearable past and her once slightly hopeful future that was extinguished by villains.